So just a quick recap here. On the break here, I started debugging the location of the effect, and there's this built-in Unity function called onDrawGizmos, and inside of that you've got draw line. So what I've done is I've drawn a line between in the editor mode between the right and the left hand. And then I realized that my previous attempt at finding the center point was not actually a very good attempt, and I had the wrong math. I think I was just subtracting these 2 points from each other. What I needed to do was add them together and then divide by 2, or in this case, multiply by 0.5, and that gave me the center point. So I can get rid of this green text here. So all this is doing is every frame it's just kind of finding that midpoint. And um, I mean, efficiency-wise, you probably wouldn't need to run this unless you were actually playing the animation. So you could kind of optimize this a tiny bit, but for now it's fine. We'll just leave that always kind of finding the midpoint. Another thing I did is I set the idle to loop, so it's always looping. And so now you'll see if I go ahead and hit my space, you'll see it's going to do the effect. Uh, oh, the screen is frozen. Okay, let's turn that off. So now you'll see if I hit space here, it's going to go ahead and do the effect, and it looks a lot better when it's in the midpoint between the two hands. It's a little bit short still, so I'm going to go, and what we're going to do now, so the rest of the time is just going to be spent kind of building up the effect. And so um, this initial particle, I think what I want to do is kind of start with kind of a little, maybe just some sparks to start with, and then I'll have a on the particle system here. I'm gonna have a I'm gonna have a slight delay maybe. So here I've got start delay. I'm gonna set that to like 0.2 maybe, and then duration is at a second, and then we'll just have to go back and forth here. Another thing is color over lifetime. Um, what I want is to start with kind of a blue color and then go into the warmer colors. So to do that, I'm just going to change these colors out here. I'm going to get something kind of bluey. Let's try this here. So there's that blue. I might come back to that. Again, you can save those into a preset if you want. And then I'll do that with the spark as well. I'll just come in here and I'll just select that spark. So now you'll see when I hit play here, I'm going to have some blue energy coming out. And then I want to go from blue into orange. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, underneath here, I'm going to just create another effect. And this one, I'm going to rename it to, I'm going to go warm arc. And this one, I'm going to rename it to cool spark. This is warm arc, and what I'm going to do is just take my arc particle on the top level, and I'm going to go to copy component, and then you'll see if I go to my warm arc and go to paste component values, it gives me all the same setup as the other one. The only thing I'm going to change is I'm going to go from cool to warm on the color over lifetime. And the other bit that I'm going to change is the delay. So the other one starts at 0.2 seconds. This one, I'm going to maybe start it at 1 second. Let's try that. and then I'm going to hit restart, or I'll just hit play, and then I'll try the effect. Oh, the scale is too big. So I'm going to go to the scaling mode. I'm going to set it from local to hierarchy, and then I'll try it one more time here. So you can see it's going from a cool into a warm. You guys see that? We got a cool energy going into a warm. And then I think I want some warm sparks as well. So I'm going to go from cool spark. I'm going to go to the top level, and I'm going to go create empty. Oh, not a create empty. Create effect particle system, and I'm going to call this rename this to warm spark. We got cool spark and warm spark. With cool spark, I'm going to go to copy component, and then on warm spark, I'm going to go to paste component values, and with my warm spark, I'm going to go to the color over lifetime, and I'm going to go ahead and go back to the warm here, and let's hit play. Oh, before we do this, let's have a look at the warm spark when it starts. The start delay is 0. I'm going to set this to 0.7, and the duration, it's going to last a little bit longer maybe. I'll try 2 seconds. So let's just see what that looks like. Let's try hitting R. It's a little bit too long, isn't it? Sticking around a bit too long. I don't know if I like the fact that these are falling on the floor, these sparks. They might be better to be floating up in the air rather than dropping on the ground. This looks like kind of dangerous for the guy doing the cast. But what's that? Yeah, maybe. So the duration's too long. So on the warm spark, I'm going to set it back to 1 second here, and let's try it again. Yeah, that's about okay. One thing we can do is with our cool. So this first one is called arc particle. Um, I could give it the name that kind of, it's basically got the starting particle system are these cool uh, cool um, arcs, right? So I could call this cool arc, but I kind of want to give it a name for the entire effect. And so I'm just going to rename this to energy effect. And we've got also this VFX control script on here. So that's at the top level. I can also just hit restart here and just see this on its own, but it kind of looks better when I've got it in play mode. I can see what's actually happening here. And then so I've kind of got it building up a bit. And I feel like I have to go back now into Maya to get the energy shape that's going to go shooting out, right? I need that energy kind of coming out. So I'm going to go back into Maya. Let's do that. Let's go into Maya. Where we created our initial arc shape. And I'm going to use, this time I'm going to use something a little bit different. I am going to create, let's go back to our settings here. Let's just have a look at the scale. So if I go to my settings, it's in centimeters. I'm going to go to my grid display of the grid here. So this is, I think this is right. 100 grid lines every 100 centimeters. So every meter we've got a grid line. I'm going to go ahead and start by creating just a polygon plane. That'll be 1 centimeter. I'm going to go to my attributes, and what I want to do with this is I'm just going to do a quick test for now. I'm going to scale it up a tiny bit. Let's see, width and height. Let's set this to 1 meter by 1 meter here. And then I'm going to go to the curves tool, and I'm just going to go into the side view of the curves. And in the curves here, if I hold down X, I think it'll snap. Let's see, do we have the actual curves tool? Oh, we didn't select it. Let's do the EP curve tool, and I'm going to put a point in the center here, and then I'm going to put one up here, and then down here, and then back up again. Something like that. Let's just hit enter there. And so I've got this curve, and what I want to do now is take this shape that I've got and shift select my curve, and then I'm going to go to deform and curve warp. And what this is going to do is it's going to bring that plane along my curve, and I've just got to get the curve warp offset. Let's get rid of the keep length, and then it will show you that that kind of moves down the curve. And let's just see what the UV looks like on there. I'm going to turn on my UV. If I select this plane here, I just want to preview that UV here. And what does that look like? Is that, it's quite stretched, which is fine, but I think it's stretching the wrong way. So we'll maybe have to rotate our UVs. One thing I want to go is in the shape here. I want to subdivide a little bit more, not that way so much, but this way. I think I want a few more subdivisions. Maybe I'll go to like 30 or something like that. And I also want to take this, and let's see if I can take this and duplicate it. Let's see if this will work. So I've duplicated that, and then I'll hit W. Maybe not W. Let's just see if okay, that's rotating it that way. What I'm going to do is actually take this. Let's go back a step here. Let's take this and let's get rid of our curve warp here. If I click on this guy, I've got curve warp. Can I? Oh, I used to know how to do this, to remove an input. You know what? I'm just going to go back a bit. Let's just go back. Before we get to that, I just Control Z it a bit. And what I'm going to do is actually take this plane here, and I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to hold J and rotate it 60 degrees. Duplicate it again. And another, so it's going to 120 now. And then I'm going to take, well, you know what? let's go ahead, and before we do that, let's just take it and go to our subdivisions, and we subdivided the height, didn't we? Wasn't it 30 times the height and 0 the width? Okay. And then we're going to duplicate this and duplicate it, and this one's going to go over holding J to 60, and then this one's going to go to holding J to 120. Where's that? 120. And then I'm just going to join these guys together. Let's see here. Where's that combine here? Oh, it's in poly modeling. It's called combine. Yeah. Edit, delete all by type history. So this is just the one shape now. And then I'm going to go to the curve and go to curves and go to, deform, curve warp, keep length. We're going to get rid of that. So now it's following along that curve, which is kind of what I wanted. And I think I can also add a deform. There's one where you can kind of make the ends a little bit smaller, which is something that I want as well, which is just a nonlinear. Is it flare? Is that it? Let me have a look at the flare here. Um, hmm. No, that's not doing anything. Let's just Control Z that. You know, Yvonne's the guy to talk to you about that. I'll ask him. All of these modifiers I'm just going to leave it like this. I can go back to the curve in the edit view here, and I think I can modify it if I just have a look here. If I go into, if I just click on the component here, I think I can take this and move, like get kind of the shape that I want here. You can kind of adjust what's happening here. You can take these points and kind of change this curve around. But I'm just going to take that for now. And I think the one thing I need to do is get the UV running the other way, because I believe it moves along the U axis. So one thing I'll do is just come in here to my UV. I'm just going to select all this. I'll go to UV shell. I'm going to select all this, and then in my UV tools here, where are those at? Yeah, so in my UV toolkit, I'm just going to take and rotate this by 90 degrees, and I don't think the direction will actually matter either way. So now it's running along. I don't know if you can see it. It's still quite stretched out, but it should be running the other way. Let's see if it works. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to call this something like energy curve. And I'm going to go ahead, and the origin is where it needs to be. I'm just going to go ahead and export this file, export selection, and I'm going to export it to, I'm going to try to export it right into my project. If I go to documents, this is called visual effect, assets. I've got an arc here. I'm going to call this one, what did I call it? Energy curve. Energy arc, maybe, because it is an arc as well, kind of. But we'll stick with curve for now. Energy curve.fbx. And I'm going to export selection. And I'm just going to have a look in it. It came in here. Let's just see what it looks like. Energy curve. it shouldn't have any animation on it. And if I have a look at the model here, it's single-sided, which is actually fine, I think, because we've taken care of that inside of our shader. I'm just going to drag this into the scene here, and there it is on its own. Quite large again, but we will scale the actual particle effect. And what I'll do is I'll just try putting our arc material on it just to see what it looks like. So there it is on our arc, and I think it seems to be flowing the right way. Possibly the wrong direction. And it's a little bit too bright as well. But I think that'll work fine. So I'm gonna pause it there, and then if you guys had trouble creating the shape, I'll let you kind of keep working on that for a minute. So I'm just gonna stop the recording there.